Hello, everyone. My name is Joseph Carson. I'm the Chief Security Evangelist and Advisor at Segura. And today, welcome to the latest episode of the Security by Default podcast. I'm the host of the show, and it's really a pleasure to have you all joining me back again. And this is a very unique episode that we're doing. It's a special from the RSAC Conference here in San Francisco. We've been going around looking at all the buzz and all the trends words, which seems to be heavily, AI is going to be either going to kill us or going to save us. But one thing I've found from this conference is that we need AI in order to be able to accelerate. Also, AI needs us. This is it's probably like a marriage that we need to do in order to make sure that we move forward at a pace and also keep it protected at the same time. So I'm really excited about today's episode. I've had Hack the Box on before, so I'm really excited about doing this again. Welcome to the episode. Welcome to the show, GMar. Do you want to give us a little bit about you, your background, a little bit about your origin story, and how you got into the industry?
Hi, Joseph. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure actually to join you here today. So yeah, I'm Gerasmus or GMar. Yeah. So basically, where should I start from? Well, yeah, let me tell you actually about my background. Computer science graduate. I did my PhD also on spatial temporal data management. So initially my focus was on, data management, data architecture, this kind of stuff. Most likely this is not the typical story you have heard from other. I don't know, actually, you'll tell me. I started working, in the data space. So that was my original focus. I moved to the US also back then. After some point, I realized that I don't want to build, analytics, dashboards for the rest of my life. So I really want something else. And this is how I got into fraud analytics.
Okay. Yeah. Very interesting.
So, my role was to build basically to work with, the top banks, the top US banks actually, to understand the fraud trends going on out there and translate all this actually into, fraud prevention models using machine learning and static rules and all these, type of thing. So in a sense, actually, I have experienced, in that specific industry, how we went from more traditional techniques, like we're doing scorecards and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
In the beginning, and how we transition from there to, machine learning models and AI and all this
Absolutely.
stuff. Anyway, I did that actually for several years. Then I got into ad fraud. So in the digital advertising space, pretty much the same approach. Again, static rules and machine learning models, crazy stories basically. Bots, visiting sites to pick up cookies, to make it seem that, they're like actual consumers with specific interest in traveling and stuff, and then ending up in fake sites basically to consume ads, and so that the advertiser is going to pay all this money to the fake to the fake ads. This is how I got also into product management, which is also my current role. So I was more like a fraud SME, coming from the financial services, side to digital advertising. And from there, I realized that it was time for me to return back to Europe. So I was looking for something broader, like fraud prevention is very interesting space, but it's a bit, specific. So I was looking for something broader, and I wanted to do something in the cybersecurity space. So this is how I got into Hack the Box. I was, I was connected with the team and Harris. They were looking actually for the first product manager, and this is how I joined. Back then, actually, users had to solve a challenge in order to get into the platform. My challenge was to convince Harris to stop thinking about the product and features and how we provide value to our users and customers, and focus on the common strategy and funding, which obviously he did, and I'm job. So yeah, since then I built a team of product managers, product designers, product analytics people, and here we are today.
Fantastic.
So I'm the chief product officer of Hack the Box, overseeing product development across the portfolio, B2B, B2C, working with our amazing R&D team, and solving interesting problems.
Fantastic. I do remember the Hack the Box challenge in order to get your token. I remember it very, very well. I do remember the celebration. What was it? The 2 million machine that was actually took on. I go back and actually celebrate that original kind of origins.
Exactly, because actually that was the point where we took down the original platform and we moved to the new one. But we wanted, that platform and the challenge to stay forever. So that's why we created it.
It's fantastic. For me, I've been doing this for a long, long time. And I went through a very traditional education and training to get into this industry. And so I always feel, at the pace that we're moving and the technology advancements is moving so quickly, traditional education is not enough in order to get the next generation of talent into the workforce. And sometimes by the time they even get into the workforce, the tool set's already changed. What I found is the most valuable thing through my journey and training was the ideology and the core skill set that I got, the practical stuff, and that became the most valuable. And one of the big things I really enjoyed was when I was getting into game theory, because I'm a big retro gamer. I love gaming, and that's really where I guess I found Hack the Box and others that was really new way of learning and doing it from a game style and the challenges and meeting new people as well. So how do you see the security awareness and security training industry evolving, especially with platforms like the Hack the Box? Maybe give the audience a little bit about what is Hack the Box and what does it do? I think some of the audience has probably heard before, but if you just do a recap and share.
Yeah, sure. So Hack the Box actually is a cybersecurity upskilling platform. We focus on security professionals. So originally, we started on the offensive side, like pen testers, red teamers, like these folks. Since then we started embracing also the defensive side of the house. So our focus today is on red, blue, and purple teams. We provide training and upskilling. We do it in many different ways because what we believe is that one size doesn't fit all.
Yes.
So what this means in our case is that people can start from what we call academy. That's very like the structural learning, the guided learning. You go step by step, still actually very practical. Still, there's a practical aspect, there's a practical part as well. But from there, you can go to more like a black box exercise.
That's the ones I love. I call it the adventure mode.
Exactly. But even this actually has multiple layers, right? It can be like a single target that you're supposed to attack if you are on the offensive side. But also we have what we call Pro Labs, which is our enterprise network.
Multiple
targets. So, and in an environment like this, you can exercise basically different skills. So, but also other things like our CTF platform, like
absolutely,
capture the flag exercises, other products like what we call talent search, basically, which is a way to connect recruiters with our community. It's an amazing product. So we have all these these layers.
Yeah, I always believe that eventually, I'm hoping that my Hack the Box profile ultimately becomes my resume. So ultimately, when you're going and you're looking as like here's my badge of honors that I've got over the years.
Yeah, you should check actually. You should check your Hack the Box profile, because what we have done actually lately was to move from separate profiles across our platforms to something unified. So what the idea is to unify activity across all platforms to a single.
And we also good since you're in product management, a good way is maybe connecting it with other, being able to export it or link it into like LinkedIn, and actually have be able to display it, as your basically credibility side of things would be a really cool.
Absolutely. Which, by the way, is what we have seen happening with our users, right, in the community. We know that they are proud of what they have achieved. At Hack the Box, and they put actually the rank and the badges on their resumes in order to communicate that these are the things that I have achieved at Hack the Box, which means a lot, right? Because we are famous for our content and the level of difficulty when it comes to challenge. But although we have content for everyone, from very beginners to really advanced.
I can tell you that I do the challenge. I mean, I don't get to spend as much time as I would love to on the platform, but as I go through the levels from easy to hard, and those insane machines are, I think it's definitely the right name for those machines, because I've spent time going, oh my goodness, whoever created this was the creativity is impressive. So I want to get into, what's you've been doing a lot of research recently and a lot of using the analytics and telemetry. Any interesting findings, anything good observations you've had from recent research?
Obviously, we have been looking into how AI basically is gonna change the industry. So what we have done is a series of CTF events, and the idea is to compare AI capabilities versus human capabilities. So we started actually doing this like a year ago. That was the first event at a small scale, I will say. But the last event it took place in November. It was a large event actually, more than I guess around 1,500 humans, basically human teams.
Yes.
And 150 AI teams. When we say AI teams, the reality is that these are like human in the loop, AI with human in the loop. So the results are pretty interesting actually. And by the way, we have a talk today at RSA to present these results.
Fantastic.
And in a few days, we're going to publish a research paper which explains exactly what we did. But yeah, like in a nutshell, basically what we found out was that especially when it comes to elite players, like if let's say the productivity actually skyrockets.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this is something very, very interesting. The other interesting part was that we see AI agents and models not doing very well when it comes to broad networks, like enterprise level, networks, when they're focused on, specific specific tasks and all these things. Yes, they're doing fine. Obviously, the other interesting part is that it seems that AI automates and streamlines basically, let's say, the low-level tasks, which typically traditionally is with what people start their career in cybersecurity. That's something that I know that the industry is thinking about, like how we bridge that gap. I think for me, is in this case, training and upskilling is even more important, right? You spend more time on platforms like Hack the Box in order to bridge that.
Even I find myself, I like to learn things. I like to do it manually because I find that I learn more when I actually understand what's happening in the background. So I like to be able to take a slow approach, learn how it works. But of course, when you get into the CTF, time is so critical. You have to move fast. If I'm doing it just to target and learn skills, I can go at my own pace. In a CTF, you want to be like, it's like I compare it like a Formula 1 race. Seconds counts. So you want to be able to go as fast. And AI is an accelerator. I always call it the mushroom in Super Mario Kart. When I get it, it makes me go super fast. Doesn't make me a better driver, so you still have to know the skills. So.
Exactly. That's a great point. Actually, you still need the reason part. You still need to know what are the questions actually that you're going to ask, what are the prompts that you're going to make. If you don't know all these things, then to your point, you're not going to be a
you're not going to be you'll be all over the place, like in Super Mario Kart, if you're not a better driver.
Exactly. So I think this gonna stick around. This is gonna be part of the training from now on. Yeah, how we're thinking about this task. Yes, fine. Certain parts will be automated basically.
Absolutely.
But this doesn't mean that people are not gonna be around to govern like this, all these agents basically to orchestrate, to provide feedback in order to become better. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think it becomes an observability and we become the watchers to make sure they're actually doing the things we expect them to do. And even I love, when I'm doing CTFs, I tend to also, use things like Hacktrix AI, which is like, it helps me move faster and do things quicker from, the data that I'm getting back is where should I go next or how should I use that? It was interesting is one of the things that, I'm based in Estonia, and last year we have an event every year. It's called Cyberspike, which is this is a Nordic cyber battle. There's a lot of, kids come together and they compete.
Right.
And it was interesting last year because I think, it's key you're talking about from the research is the teams that didn't use AI, their skills were really good and they did well. But the group that actually used AI, their skills were not the best. They were good, but because they used AI, they were able to move at a faster pace. And they won. They won the competition because they were able to keep ahead of the other teams by actually complementing their skills with AI to make them much more empowered and stronger, just like that mushroom.
Yeah, so, very, very interesting. Yeah.
So what here at RSA Conference, what's been your observations? I felt like I'm a bit of an AI conference, so rather than a security, cyber conference, but what's been the key takeaways? What did you find walking around the floor, the messaging, and even the networking community here?
Yeah, frankly speaking, it's my first RSA.
Okay.
Yeah, so far, I was leaning towards like Black Hat and DEF CON type event. So it's my first time. So I have nothing really to compare. But, I mean, it's a huge event. It's a scale that I couldn't imagine, to be honest, like before I come here. Yeah, like, to your point, yes, AI is everywhere. Sometimes, as people say, like a lot of the things we see, around us, like, I think in the future, they're going to be just like features, right?
Yeah.
Under like something bigger. I think that's a trend that, let's say, I was able to confirm here, like a very, very specific focus. At some point, we're gonna see mergers and acquisitions, like
Absolutely.
to become something bigger. The other thing I noticed, I mean, it was like some focus on AI governance. I think that's important.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's not only about let's say cyber capabilities of AI and the offensive defense. It's also like how we're thinking about orchestration, how we're thinking about governance and all this. I think they're gonna be even more important.
Absolutely. I mean, I believe that agentic AI is the new insider risk. So I think that in the next, probably within this year, we probably will see a massive, incident or cyber incident or data breach that will actually be not from humans and not from misconfigurations, but from basically an agentic AI agent going rogue. And that's something that, we should be able to make sure that we have the visibility and the governance to be able to minimize the impact of it. But my concern is that, people is opening up their entire data sets to AI, and that can be a massive risk if you don't approach it, in the right way.
And this is one of the areas where we have been focusing on as Hack the Box. We start with our AI red teaming basically path on the academy side, and also like a lot of labs basically around the same thing. But we want to focus on both on what we call AI for security and security for AI. So yes, this means how you attack, how you protect, how you assess basically AI powered systems, but also how you use AI in your job, in your your day-to-day basically job as a pen tester or as a defender. You're gonna see more actually coming out very soon.
Fantastic. That's really exciting. It's important to make us productive, but at the same time, we need to also be effective and efficient as well. We need to maintain the skills and not lose the skills. And I think that's really important, is that, we should use AI to help us move fast, but we should also use the kind of the training to make sure that we're learning, and that when AI is not available, that we still know how to do things. That's the concern, is that even a lot of times I always compare it to the vehicle and driving. If, all of a sudden you're in an autonomous vehicle, it fails. Do you still have a driver's license? You know what to do. Do you still know how to drive a car? And I think that's important.
That's a good way to put it. Yes.
So this industry changes so much, and we all have to stay up to date. We all have to learn new things. What's your source of, learning and knowledge? Do you have mentors? Do you have podcast, books, events like this that you go to stay up to date? How do you stay up to date in this fast moving world?
Yeah, podcast for sure. Also, industry reports. Frankly speaking, I have built, or I've tried actually to build my own agent that can analyze actually all these reports coming in, because there's like so much information out there. So I need at least some summaries to start with, and then I can dive into like the details for the topics I need to. LinkedIn for sure. Like it's a big source for me. But also, reports coming from industry analysts, firms we've been working with, with some firms. So yeah,
Fantastic. And if the audience do have questions or want to, follow up, what's the best way to reach out or have questions? How should they reach out to you?
LinkedIn is fine.
Fantastic. We'll make sure we'll make sure that we'll also get the research paper and all of the kind of links and everything into the show notes, so make it easier for the audience in order to be able to follow up at a later stage. GMar, it's been awesome having you on the show, and it's really exciting to do these episodes and in person, because normally for me it's always online and sitting in my office over a camera, and it's a pleasure to have you and meet you here. And I think what Hack the Box is doing is really awesome, and I think you're definitely changing the workforce knowledge and skill gap, and closing that to a point where we can stay up to date, we can do great things and innovate and stay ahead. So everyone, thanks for tuning in. A special edition of the Security by Default podcast here at the RSAC Conference. For you, tune in every 2 weeks, new episodes, new guests, new topics. Stay safe, take care until next time. Thank you and goodbye.